CMH. Josh Snyder. Josh, it has been multiple times that you have visited with us here on the radio and online, and our split screen, our new technology, kind of like what the national broadcasters and local
Yeah,
broadcasters
it's
do. And
cool.
yeah, and we appreciate your team and all its effort and work to get you on today. And let's dive into our topic, if you could. We're talking about addiction,
Hmm.
and in the past we've talked a lot about addiction, and we'll do that a little bit this morning in regards to what it is and how people get hooked on it, and the efforts to kind of battle it out.
Hmm.
But I like how the topic is not only just addiction, but what it is what to do when you are ready for
Hmm.
help. And because a lot of people, I think, or maybe it's a stereotype, is that when we hear that somebody's addicted, or you hear on social media, that person looks like they're on meth or other things. We just have this stereotype of people, and then it kind of stops right there. And the help side of it tends to get lost in conversation sometimes. Is
Hmm.
is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. People do stay in their addiction for a super long time, and maybe you know someone who just hasn't reached out for help. But I think that I think the important thing, the thing I wanted to focus most on today is that there does come a time when life circumstances and reflection and people talking to you that they actually get ready. They,
Mhm.
they make a decision. It's time for me to do something about this. And that's obviously a very critical time for their life. What are you going to do to get help? And what does that look like? And I think that sometimes can be a little bit of a mystery to people, like what exactly is treatment and what would I be entering into? And what is this thing called recovery? So, I kind of want to turn last time I was on, I talked about the stages of motivation that people go through, and it can go from I'm not even thinking it's a problem to I'm starting to think it's a problem, and now I'm kind of convinced, but I'm still not doing anything. But kind of turning the page to say, okay, it's time for me to do something. As scary as that might feel, the uncertainty that you feel when that's happening, um, what can I do about it when
Yeah.
I'm ready? Yeah.
And people are very different. You see this every day, and your team does that. If somebody has that addiction, it could last for years. It could
Hmm.
be something where they realize pretty quickly, hey,
Yeah.
I need to get help. And everybody is truly different. Do you mind? And I have some questions for you, but
Sure.
I- is that is the steps there when they're ready to say I'm ready for help? If they've been addicted to something for years,
Hmm.
is it tougher to for your team, for them?
I've stopped trying to predict who's ready and who's going to get clean and sober.
Okay.
You can be really surprised, and it could be somebody who's been at it for decades, or it could be someone who's been at it for, a year only. You don't know. It really has to do internally with if I'm ready to do what I need to do to orient my life around changing it and to get into this thing that we call recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into it.
Okay.
Addiction. Take us through that.
Yeah.
Is it something that's temporary? I know we just talked about that, but it doesn't sound
Yeah.
like it's that case for
Like
everybody.
most, yeah, I'm sorry. Like most things, it's a spectrum of severity, but there you do cross into this thing where you could definitely say, I have an addiction. It's a compulsive urge to keep doing something that's really, really bad for you. And there's you might have heard a saying that it's a chronic, progressive, and terminal problem or disease. It's chronic in the sense that it's going to last your lifetime, and it's something you'll have to contend with your whole lifetime,
Mhm.
and it's not going to go away on its own. It's progressive in the sense that unless it gets stopped, unless you arrest the process, it's going to keep getting worse. And then it's terminal in the sense that if something else doesn't get you, it will get you, and it will literally will kill you, and that will be the reason that you die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What,
So it's pretty serious. So from that lens, it's a super serious situation when people get to that point where they're compulsively using something, even though it's super bad for them in so many ways.
Absolutely. And, it can be physical, it can be mental, it can be a combination of both of them. And
Yeah.
It's very interesting because a moment ago you said it's with you for the rest of your life, and even if somebody is able to come out of it, be able to
Hmm.
get past it, it's still in the back of their mind, right? Is that where you mean it's with them for the rest of their life?
There's some people, as we know, there's some people who can drink socially. They can use whatever in a relatively safe way, and it doesn't end up owning them and taking over their life. There's some people, and people need to come to terms with this, is I'm not that kind of person. I'm the kind of person that if I start drinking again, if maybe I've been sober for 20 years, if I start drinking again, I won't be able to stop. That's a really difficult thing for people actually to come to terms with, is that I'm not the kind of person who can socially drink or whatever. That's just not me, because for whatever reason, it could be well-worn pathways in the brain, it could be an addictive personality, it could be whatever, but it's hard to quantify that. But it's true for
Yeah.
some people. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
As we dive deeper into this topic for the listeners that are listening and watching this morning, again, this is streaming live on our Facebook pages and our YouTube channel, as well as over the radio on Mom FM and Hot Country Hits and our digital platforms. You can tune into it. We're talking with Josh Snyder, Josh, Chief Clinical Officer there at West Michigan CMH. We mentioned this a few moments ago that it's not cookie cutter. There's no
Hmm.
necessarily template there, but there is no one right way for somebody. As soon as they say, "I'm ready for help,"
Right.
how do you address that?
Yeah. I would say there's a few key things I think people need to know. One would be is when you're ready, you simply need to take the next step, and that is to reach out to someone to get some help. Now, for most people, that probably will be their doctor, for example. That might be a good place to start. I need to get an appointment. I need to go have a true conversation with my doctor about what's going on in my life. And that doctor oftentimes can make recommendations. They'll have people they can refer them to, that kind of thing. If you know of a treatment facility like West Michigan CMH, we're an outpatient treatment facility, and the place most people in our area go to as a starting point for sure,
Mhm.
is you can literally call in and be talked to that day, usually, if not the next day. And it just starts that process. And as far as demystifying kind of what happens, because I
Mhm.
think people get a little afraid of what does it even look like if I go in? What are they going to do to me, if I go there? So I just want to kind of demystify that. It basically, you meet with a person, a human being, a clinician, and the first step will be doing an assessment. And essentially what they're doing is they're talking to you, and they're asking a bunch of questions about why you're here, what's going on. They'll ask some history kind of in a safe way. If they're not peppering you, it's a safe conversation. They're caring people who, really want to see you succeed. And but they'll get a history and on medical stuff and your use and family stuff and education or job, all the things in your life, to get a good picture of who you are, where you're at, and what you want to see happen,
Okay.
in your life. And they can take that, and that's step one. And
Mhm.
then step two will be they will make a recommendation to you at that point about what is the level of treatment that is most likely going to fit your situation to help you be successful.
Yeah.
And that can look different depending on your situation and kind of what you bring to the table and how ready you are and all that kind of stuff.
You know, it not being in somebody's shoes in regards
Hmm.
to that first initial meeting. Do
Yeah.
you find that people are, and again, we want to, we have that asterisk, which is everybody is different,
Yeah.
but are they eager? Are they hesitant? Are they confused? What's that descriptive that you can tell us about, and that is the most or the majority, if you don't mind sharing that, when they walk in, or that phone call or that
Yeah.
appointment set?
Yeah. I think there's probably two categories. Some people are here under some form of duress, meaning they don't want to be here, but maybe the court is telling them they have to be here, or a spouse is threatening to leave if you don't go get help. And so they're in that situation, they're their posture, so to speak, or their way of looking at it is they're not super crazy about it, and they might be defensive or a little less than honest, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
There's the other people though who are there of their own volition, and they're like, I'm so sick and tired of being in my life. I'm ready for some help. There's fear because they don't know what to expect, but oftentimes there's relief.
Mm.
There's this sense of I'm taking that step that I've, been wanting to take for a long time, and I'm finally taking it, today. And so, and like most things in life, once you do something, it's not as scary as you thought it would be, right? And you just start doing whatever it is.
Yeah. If you are just joining us, we're talking with Josh Snyder from West Michigan Community Mental Health. The topic today, addiction, not necessarily the build up to it, but when that decision is made to get yourself help or
Hmm.
somebody else factors into that too. Because Josh, there's a, as you mentioned, the court system is part of that motivator, of course,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
sometimes on the other side, there's the family, the friends. If you have kids and there's the neglect that's happening there potentially,
Hmm.
there's a lot of motivating factors that
Yeah.
kind of push people into that spot.
There are. And in the end, though, in order for people to be successful, your motivation is going to fluctuate even once you get into treatment because the allure of the addiction is strong,
Mhm.
particularly at the beginning. But in the end, your reasons for doing the work of getting clean and sober, whatever that is, they have to be so good and so personal. They have to be yours. They've got to be meaningful to you. They can't be your wife's reasons or your kids' reasons or your boss's reasons. They have to be yours. And they can be as simple as, I don't want this addiction to kill me.
Mm.
I don't want to end up in prison because I know that's where I'm going to end up. I want to be the best, parent I can be or spouse I can be. Whatever your reason is or set of reasons is, those have to get super clear. That's something that actually happens in treatment. It's like if you're going to fight this fight, you better have darn good reasons,
Yeah.
for doing it that you can rely on, even if your feelings and your motivation aren't super strong on that particular day. You've got to rely on the truth about why you're doing
And your team is keeping their feet to the fire. They're
it.
I would assume, checking those goals and things adapt over time too with anything. It's
Yeah.
I would assume it's very fluid as it goes.
you, Particularly at the beginning, there's a ton of discovery that happens. It's like you come in and you think, oh, all I need to do is stop drinking, or all I need to do is stop smoking, whatever. It's so much, recovery is so much more than that. It's stopping, yes, but there's so much more growth and discovery that you do about yourself that is really going to become the stuff of. That's why recovery is such a great life, is because there's so many things you discover about yourself, and there's so many awesome things in the world that you can enjoy that your addiction hasn't allowed you to do that, and you start to feel that stuff you've never felt before.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
on the flip side, it's probably very rewarding when that stuff starts to come back in your life and you're able
you
to
bet.
notice that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can often take a while. Like the first few months, there's good things about the first few months of recovery, but it's pretty hard work and there's a lot of difficulty too. But a lot of people describe that around month 6
Hmm.
is when the cloud starts to lift a bit and things start to kind of settle in and you start to um, really enjoy some of the rewards of the hard work that you've done the last few months.
Absolutely. Going back to the earlier statement about it's not kind of a light switch, like you mentioned. Okay, I'm going to just stop drinking, and tomorrow everything is going to be okay.
Yeah,
It takes time, and I wonder, you have various treatment programs there at West Michigan CMH, and
yeah,
we've talked about it over the years of a one-on-one, of group,
yeah.
all of that. Break that down. What's the options there?
So I had talked about the assessment that you would go through and the recommendations that you make. There's basically going to be, to simplify it, there's like two levels that you'd have: the outpatient level and then the inpatient. So that determination is made on is what level of structure or intervention you need in order to be successful. So I'll start with the most intense first, which is the inpatient. And when people talk about going to rehab, that's usually the terminology that you use, that you hear, and that's where you actually do go. You drive somewhere and you go and you stay somewhere. There's rooms and beds and meals served and all that kind of thing. And so sometimes it's detox and withdrawal management for the first 3 to 5 days. If you're coming down from whatever you're using and it's unsafe for you to do it or really super uncomfortable for you to do it, that is really helpful. And that focus at that point is just taking some medications, but focusing on just getting getting sober and clean for 3 to 5 days. After that, you move into like a residential treatment program where you basically just marinate in recovery all day long. You'll have a treatment plan, you'll have a therapist, you'll have groups, you'll have activities, didactic education classes, that kind of thing. And you literally just sit and soak in all things recovery, to motivate you, to clarify some things, help clarify the path you're about to take. Um, so that's the most intensive of the two, would be to go somewhere, and that generally lasts. It used to be longer, but generally it's anywhere from 8 to 20 days is probably the average nowadays. Sometimes it can actually be up to 60 or 90 days, depending on your situation. But I would say the average is in the ballpark of maybe 15 to 20 days.
Because it's so intense that and tell me if I'm wrong here, but the assumption is it's so intense, you're surrounded by people day and night,
Hmm.
that that the you know the road, the track that you're trying to be put on, or going down, will it'll speed up the process when you have so much influence around you. That changes things.
Yeah. People usually like rehab.
Hmm.
They come out thinking clear, feeling good. They've not been under the effect of the substance, for 2, 3 weeks, and that hadn't happened for a long time. So they come out feeling pretty good. Sometimes people can actually be a little overconfident at that time because it's relatively easy to stay clean when you're in a facility.
Mhm.
Surrounded by that, you're really motivated, all kinds of reminders and structure and safety and all that kind of stuff. But when you come back home, there's all those triggers that you face, that you're used to in your life, the people or the places and the habits you had, all that kind of stuff. They're sitting there kind of waiting for you, and that's when the test happens.
Mm.
And so, if you go the route of inpatient and then back to outpatient, that's why that second part is so important, the outpatient part. And you don't ever have to go to inpatient. I just want to make that clear.
Okay,
Sometimes
gotcha.
people just go to the outpatient and that's where they go, or you go to the inpatient and come back down to the outpatient. But for people who go through that, the rehab and come out, that second part is even more critical
Okay.
in order to keep on the good path that you've been going down.
If you're just joining us, and we're going to dive into that second path
Okay.
here in a moment, we're talking with Josh Snyder from West Michigan West Michigan CMH, and you're in regards to the inpatient. So you're in the inpatient, you're transitioning to the outpatient. And again, I'm making some assumptions, but you can certainly correct me. Is that they go to that outpatient side of it, and then it's sort of there's some temptation there, right? There's some
Hmm.
looseness in regards to, I can do that later, or I've got time to do that, or I'll push that off to tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's where I would assume it can get pretty tough, even after inpatient, or if they're just starting out with outpatient.
Yeah.
How do you keep that glue together?
Yeah. We really focus on motivation. Self-discipline is a part of it. It's doing the things you have to do to be successful, even if you don't feel like it.
Mm.
Kind of like going to the gym or eating well. It's easier not to do those healthier things. So there is that deep-seated motivation that I know I need to do this, and I'm going to keep one day at a time doing the next thing. And that might mean going to my appointment with my peer recovery coach, because I know that when I go, and after I meet with him or her, I feel so much better. And it's like a shot in the arm for my recovery. And it's going to get me through the night, let's
Mm.
say. Or I'm going to go to that AA meeting every day for 30 days in a row, even when I don't feel like it, because I know I need that.
Mm.
Yeah.
We haven't talked a lot about the medication side of it. There's
Right.
something called MAT, right? Is that
Yeah.
something that you can help us with?
Sure. Yep. So this has been I mean, medication assisted treatment is what MAT stands for. And for two substances, basically, they've been approved for in the medical community. One is for alcohol, and the other is for opiates. So they don't have medication generally for cocaine or cannabis or methamphetamine, that kind of thing. So those are the two that have been approved kind of medically. So in a nutshell, what both of those medications will do is they help with the generally with just the cravings and the desire to use. So instead of it being at like 100%, it might drop it down to, only fighting a 50% level of a craving. And that
Okay.
just makes it easier to manage.
Hmm.
Other substances, like there's one for alcohol, we don't use it a ton, but some people do choose to use it, is that if you take the medication and then I drink, I get very, very sick and I throw up and I can't literally can't drink without it having a negative impact on me.
Hmm.
Um, Another benefit of some of the medications for opiates is that if you take the medication, even if you were to use the opiate, it doesn't have as much of effect or any effect on you because the receptor sites are already bound by the medication, and so the drug has nothing to land on to have the effect it normally has.
And that brings me to that next part of that process. So they're in the outpatient side of things.
Hmm.
Um, do the goals change? Well, not necessarily the goals, but I guess what's the effort like? Obviously, the medication side is there, but what is the effort from your team standpoint to make sure that you keep them on the right track?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Without
good.
seeing them face to face.
Yeah, it's a good question. So, everybody who comes in gets what we call a treatment plan. And that's a very individualized plan that says, okay, these are the goals you're looking to do in your life, and they're your goals. They're not ours, they're yours, well defined. And we kind of back it up and go, okay, what do you need to do to get there? What are the services you need to do that's going to help you move towards that? So everybody has that, and we refer back to that treatment plan. And that can change over time as people reach a goal, reach an objective, and they keep going down that, and they take that next step.
Hmm. You have, and by the way, we are just scratching the surface on this, and the bigger picture is if somebody is listening or viewing this and they're ready to take that step, then they want to call CMH and that 800-992-2061 number, and we'll make sure that we
Hmm.
put that in the comment section of our Facebook and our YouTube channel.
Great,
But
thank you.
there is aftermath. There's the after recovery side of it. So people have said, "Hey, I'm ready." They meet. You have the sessions, the inpatient,
Hmm.
the outpatient, that whole plan and process. But there's additional support here, like there's recovery housing that we had kind of hinted
Yes.
on a little bit there. But one of the things that I don't think we talked about too much is that you have employed right now in your team individuals that have gone through the same thing or similar things
Hmm.
that those that are dealing with addiction are going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are our peer recovery coaches. I think that's who you're referring to. And love our peer recovery coaches. Those are people who have been there and done that. They have had their own battle, and they've come out the other side, and they've got usually several years of recovery. And when they come and talk to somebody who's early in recovery, it's such an awesome thing because they have so much to offer. And they're not just telling them what to do. They're giving them encouragement. They're kind of shining a flashlight a couple feet ahead of them because they're not seeing anything. Like this, these are the next step. It's okay. I'll take you to your first AA meeting, whatever you need. I can walk alongside you. Um, we love our peers. They do a great job. Yeah.
I'm going to throw a kind of a curveball if you don't mind. I think you could
Okay.
probably handle it. We are inundated with TV shows and Netflix and movies, and
Hmm.
addiction comes up in things that we watch online and at the movie theater and such. But is it you know is what we see on in these movies, on these TV shows, with somebody crawled up in a ball on their bed and sweating it out and going through all of that. Is that the process? Is that what happens? What are some of those myths or those perceptions that we have wrong?
Yeah, it certainly can be.
Okay.
People can get to the point where it's so glaringly obvious. If you go to a larger city or even in smaller towns, people living on the street. I was in Vancouver a couple weeks ago, and I saw a guy smoking a crack pipe on the street, literally at the bus stop.
Yeah.
First time I'd ever seen that kind of out in the open or shooting up, that kind of thing. So I mean, that's obvious that people have gotten to the point where they're homeless and that's the way it is. But probably the much bigger majority, people have an addiction and they're putting on a pretty good face. They might know things are pretty serious and that my life is a wreck and I'm out of control with this if they're relatively self-honest or they've got people in their life telling them that, but they still might be going to work and they still might be, taking care of business, um, but maybe barely hanging on. But
Mhm.
usually over time, cracks will start to show
Mhm.
because the addiction wins in the end,
Yeah.
and stuff starts to fall off your life plate, and you actually don't go to work and you
Mhm.
don't fulfill your obligations, and you're not the person you want to be or you used to be, and might be a little more subtle, but the people around you, it's no secret.
And I think it's important that, and you mentioned Vancouver, but in Mason County, Manistee, Lake County, Oceana County, in the three counties that you serve, which is Mason, Oceana, and Lake counties,
Hmm.
that we don't necessarily see that on the streets necessarily, but
Hmm.
addiction is happening, and it can be next door, a few doors down, a coworker across the aisle, somebody at church on Sunday that you've known for years but don't know
Yeah,
what's happening.
yeah. Addiction has no zip code, doesn't care how much money you make, doesn't care your political party, doesn't matter. It's just anybody can suffer from that
Yeah.
for sure.
Again, the phone number 800-992-2061. For those who are struggling or know someone as well that are struggling, because that support net is, that supportive network is crucial out there too. Is there anything that we didn't touch on before we wrap up that you'd like to make sure we got to the listeners and viewers this morning?
Just that it's possible and it's worth it,
Mm.
particularly if you're a person who's right there at that precipice of should I do something or not. Yes, it's going to be super hard, but it will be worth it. Talk to somebody who's in recovery. Sit down and have a conversation with someone who's in recovery, and they will not tell you, no, no, this was a bad plan. I
Mhm.
should have kept using. No one will say that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's
Yeah,
taking that first step, and it's a big step.
it
It's
is.
probably a
It
very
is.
difficult step for
Yeah,
many.
yeah.
Josh, we appreciate you a lot. Josh Snyder, the Chief Clinical Officer for West Michigan Community Mental Health. And again, check out the CMH website. But if it's an immediate, hey, you're ready to take that step, nobody's going to fault you at that. Nobody's going to, put that above your head. And people want to see
They
individuals.
do.
Yeah, they
People start
on the
people
inside.
start cheering you on for sure, no
Yeah,
doubt. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Josh, will hopefully connect with you in the future, and thank
Sure we
you for
will.
being a part of the conversation. Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate you.
Thank you. It is
Take care.
102, you too. It is 102.7 Mom FM and Hot Country Hits